Today we're going to take a look at textiles and the objectives that you should be able to understand are the difference between natural fibers and manufactured fibers or man-made fibers. We're going to list the characteristics of different types of fibers, and we are going to describe how fabric is made. Okay, so your first key term is textiles. These are any products made from fibers, including fabrics. And the fabrics that we're going to be talking about are clothes. So textiles start as fibers, which are made into yarns, which are then made into fabrics. And we are going to do a journal activity for this part. But as you can see here, we have a cotton plant. If you take a good look at cotton fibers magnified, you see it's long single strands. And then those strands are combed out and twisted to make yarns. And then that yarn is either woven or knit to make fabric. All the way back to the basics, fibers are raw materials from which fabric is made. The cells are long, thin, and very much like hair. And you can get fibers from plants or animals, which would be a natural fiber, or man-made sources, which would be polyester. So let's take a look at those natural fibers. These are cells from plants, such as cotton or linen. The pros of natural plant fibers is that they are highly absorbent, meaning they can take sweat away from your body and cool you off. They clean well or launder well, and insects or moths don't chew on those fabrics. The bad things are that they can burn easily, they can be stained by mildew, sun exposure can cause yellowing, and they can also wrinkle easily, so you have to iron them often. And then natural fibers from animals, which would be called protein natural fibers, they burn slowly. They have good elasticity, meaning they stretch well, and they are resilient. They return to their original size and shape. The bad thing about natural fibers from animals is that it requires a lot of care and it needs to be dry cleaned. Taking a look at animal sources of fibers, this is an Angora rabbit, and that gives us Angora fibers for sweaters. This is also an Angora goat, but we call the fibers that come from goats mohair or cashmere. And then we have sheep, and this is our standard wool that we get from sheep. Okay, man-made fibers are chemicals made from wood, oil products, and other chemicals. These chemicals are melted down and then pressed through something called an extruder, which has a lot of very small holes, and it creates a very, very small strand of a fiber. That fiber dries really quickly once it's pressed through the extruder, and then the fibers are woven together to create a yarn. They come in generic names, which describes a group of fibers with similar chemical compositions, or they are also trade names, which are used by companies to identify the types of fibers that they develop. The good thing about man-made fibers is that they clean well, they are moth-proof, and they are also non-allergenic. Yarns are fibers that are aligned and spun and twisted. One type of fiber is a short fiber, and that's called a staple. A long fiber is called a filament. Yarns can be made from one single fiber type, and they can also be blended, which is two or more different types of fibers woven together or spun together. Weaving is the interlacing of two sets of yarn at right angles, and I hope you can see in this picture here that it's over, under, over, under, over, under. The warp yarns run lengthwise to form a lengthwise grain, which would be up and down, And then weft yarns run crosswise, left and right. And there are 3 basic types of weaves. The first weave is a plain weave. This is the simplest weave, and it basically creates a checkerboard pattern. The next type of weave is a twill weave, and you can see it goes over 2, under 2, and this produces a wale, which is a diagonal rib or a cord pattern, and you can see this in blue jeans. So if you take a really close look at your blue jeans, you'll see this diagonal pattern. And then there is satin weave. This is a very smooth and slippery. It drapes well, but it is the least durable than the other weaves. Knit fabrics, these would be for your t-shirts. Knitting is basically looping yarns together. Other type of fabrics that are made besides woven fabrics and knit fabrics is if you use felt. Basically what they're doing is whenever somebody creates felt, they're joining fibers using glue, heat, and the interlocking or tangling of fibers. Other types of fabric that we can use for clothing and accessories are vinyl, which is a thin non-woven sheet. It's basically plastic that looks like a woven fabric or even leather. The next type of fabric that we can use for clothes and accessories is leather. Leather is tanned, which means that it's treated with special acid to keep it soft, to resist stains and fading and cracking. And then there are bonded non-woven fabrics. These are layers of fabric that are just joined together with adhesive.